that's what.
Okay, we can record the first 10 minutes or so. Yeah, so I realized there are just a few important things I forgot to say about the critical collapse. So we had this picture of the moduli space of solutions where some solutions in moduli space form black holes, some don't form black holes, and there was this codimension 1 hypersurface between them. These were the critical solutions, which I told you are conjectured to approach extremal Rice-Nordstrom asymptotically, or in the model I described right at the end of the lecture, actually been proved to do that. You might wonder where the third law violating solutions fit into all of this. And the point there is that any solution which has a trapped surface has to live in the interior of this region B. And the reason for that is that a trapped surface is a stable phenomenon. If you have a solution with a trapped surface and you perturb it, it continues to have a trapped surface, which means it continues to lie inside B. So therefore, any solution with a trapped surface lies in the interior of B. And since third law violating solutions, by definition, have trapped surfaces, that means they all lie in the interior of B, and therefore they're not critical. Okay, so the third law violating solutions are not in this set. So any of these solutions, any of these black hole solutions, have to be black hole solutions without trapped surfaces. So that was the first point I wanted to emphasize. The second thing I wanted to emphasize is that since these solutions lie on the boundary between B and C, it means that these are black hole solutions which can be perturbed to become non-black hole solutions. So in other words, the black holeness of solutions on this surface is unstable. Okay, so the black hole property of solutions on the critical surface is unstable. Or thinking about it in terms of the things formed by collapse, if we form an extremal Rice-Nordstrom solution in collapse, and it's one of these critical solutions, then we could perturb the initial data leading to the formation of that black hole so that the resulting space-time no longer describes a black hole. Okay, so it's an example where the black holeness of the solution is an unstable feature. So that's kind of a little bit surprising. Yes, yes. So we can see that immediately from, say, let's say we take these, the models that Kahler and Unger constructed. So they had solutions like this. So let's say that was one of the solutions in B. And then solutions in C look like this, and the critical solutions look like this. They're black holes, but we know that when we perturb them, we pick a critical solution, we can perturb it, we can make a small perturbation to the initial data that takes us from here to here. Okay, so the property that that data forms a black hole is an unstable feature of the solution. So that's the sense in which it's an unstable property. So in that this sort of corroborates the intuition that you would get just by looking at the Rice-Nordstrom family, that the extremal black hole is on the threshold of not being a black hole. So this confirms it, but without ever talking about some natively singular side of the family.
That's going to be going to see.
I'm just saying, so if you pick a solution here and you perturb it, you can either go that way or that way. Okay, so if I perturb the initial data for a critical solution, I can either perturb it so that it continues to form a black hole, or I can perturb it so it stops being a black hole completely. So it's another example of, so I said that extremal Rice-Nordstrom has both stable and unstable features. So in this setup, the property of being a black hole, at least if it's one of these critical solutions, is an unstable feature. Okay.
What kind of perturbation?
Well, I guess it's This is codimension 1, so if you find a perturbation that takes you that way, you just flip the sign and you get a perturbation that takes you that way.
Physical perturbation?
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing wrong with it. From the perspective of initial data, there's nothing wrong with, let's say I set up initial data here. There's nothing wrong with perturbing this a little bit, so it takes you over to here.
Saying that you start and you remove the, say, the bottom part, and then you start with that initial data.
I'm going to start.
You perturb the
Yeah, I
initial
perturb
data.
exactly. Yeah, I could perturb the initial data. Yeah, I could perturb it in initial. Yeah, so
It's not that the black hole disappears; it's that the evolution doesn't lead to a black hole.
the illusion. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's the black wholeness is unstable in the sense that the black hole doesn't form.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's not that the black hole forms and then
Well, that would be impossible.
yes. That's why I was.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but the property of whether or not it describes a black hole is an unstable feature. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yes.
Can you clarify the first point? Like, why do you have to capture this for violations of the third law?
Well, so you remember how Israel's formulation of the third law said that a solution with a trapped surface could not become an extremal black hole. So if we violate the third law, then then there is a trapped surface by definition. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I think this is answering the question I asked yesterday about what do you mean by like not really a black hole. And I guess my one question with this figure is, so it's unstable. You perturb towards solution type B, you get a collapse to a black hole, right? So then couldn't you get a black hole from an extremal rising or extreme? I mean, I guess it wouldn't be extreme, but it would be.
To emphasize, these are black holes, the solutions on this surface. They're asymptotically extremal Rice-Nordstrom. And if you perturb that way, you're generically going to get a non-extremal Rice-Nordstrom. That's what you'll get. Okay. But there will be, as I said, these third law violating solutions do sit in this space somewhere as well. So, yeah.
I guess we also talked about the extra class of solutions D, and I'm wondering that, like, triple up 93 result that you mentioned earlier, like, do you have a sense of how the space of solutions in D fits in this phase diagram? Because there's also some connection between that.
Yeah, so I think the idea is that would just be this is a local picture, so the claim is just that there is a locally part of this phase diagram that looks like this, but the global picture is just very unclear. But there should be a part, at least if we consider the massless charge scalar field coupled to gravity, then there should be a part that looks like the Choptwick collapse. So that will be a different. There'll be the nakedly singular solutions on the critical surface for that, but how that all fits together globally is not very clear.
The conjecture that you mentioned about B crit always being always corresponding to extremal solutions, is that just something about the boundary between B and C, or is that expected to hold also for the boundary between B and D or whatever?
Well, so as I said, I mean, I haven't been super careful about distinguishing between C and D, to be honest. But in the Choptwick case, those naked singularities will be on the boundary between B and D. So that, yeah, okay. But in other models, you can have other kinds of critical solutions, like Willis considered the case of massive charged Vlasov, and in that model, you could have unstable stars. So you could have just a star that sits there, but if you perturb it, it either collapses to a black hole or it disperses. And in that model, you have both. So the B crit, he has a nice picture. So his surface, part of it consists of extremal black holes like this, and part of it consists of these unstable stars, and they meet at a point. Yeah, for the unstable star part, yeah. The other thing I wanted to say about this is that this is probably all, in the charge case, all true for the kinds of thing that Kayla and Unger were looking at when you have matter with a charge to mass ratio, which is very big. If you look at the things with the bounded charge to mass ratio, for example, in the supersymmetric context I was discussing, I would expect it to be harder. Well, first it's an open question. So I said the third law is true for supersymmetric black holes. So you can't form extremal Rice-Nordstrom in finite time. if that mass charge bound is satisfied, but you might still be able to form them asymptotically, so that's not excluded. But how they fit into this picture of critical collapse is rather unclear. And my guess is that they're going to be harder to form in the sense that if there are solutions which approach extremal Rice-Nordstrom asymptotically, they probably form a set which is codimension greater than 1. So you have to do more fine tuning in order to construct them for supersymmetric black holes. But that's just speculation at the moment. All right, I think that was all I had to say about adding stuff to the. So do you want to turn the recording off now? So now I can. Okay.